Hey Jen, how are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Mia?
I'm pretty good. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been a while. I've been wanting to do a podcast with you for quite a while since I've met you. So I'm really stoked that you're on the podcast today.
Well, same. Thanks for inviting me and thanks for holding out for vacation and my return and everything like that.
Well, it looked like you had an amazing time. Honestly, like
Okay.
Portugal just
Yeah.
looked fantastic.
It was really good. My only regret is maybe that I didn't bike on this trip, but it's fine. It's nice to take a break from the bike every once in a while.
Were you able to scope any bike stuff out there, like any trails or anything like that?
No, but they definitely exist. That is for sure.
Mm,
We did a little bit of hiking and things like that. And I certainly, like, even in Lisbon, I saw a person riding his bike and he was all decked out in fox gear. He was riding his bike down one of the roads going uphill. So there
yeah.
had to have been a trail nearby. And that would have been a really bummer downhill too. So I
Ooh, we should look into maybe doing like a Portugal world ride collab
think you should.
ride or
I
something.
think you should.
That'd be so good.
Yeah, it would be good.
Well, thanks again for coming on. And I want to start off by asking you, for those with a little bit of background, I've known Jen for a little while. I was part of one of her shredstrong programs last year, and she was also a nutritionist coach for me, the nutrition coach for me this year, which was amazing earlier in the year. So Jen, can you just, before we go into the coaching stuff, can you give me a little bit of background of you? How did you get into mountain biking?
An ex.
You're like the fourth person to tell me that.
Yeah, I was in college at the time. This was right around like 2000, 2001,
Mhm.
and I was at University of North Carolina in Greensboro, and I was kind of, dating. We weren't really like in a relationship, but we were dating, and she was also a mountain biking coach. And I happened to mention like, "Hey, I've got a mountain bike. Like, let's ride together sometime." But I've never really ridden on a trail.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
it was just my around the town, mongoose. It was an old school mongoose.
Nice.
And I bring it, and of course, I haven't serviced it in probably a few years, because this is the same bike that I had as a teenager. I bring it, and of course, she has I don't even remember what the hell kind of bike she had. Bring it to the trailhead in Western North Carolina, and she's just like I could tell the look in her eye, like, "Ooh, do you have a flat kit?" and things like that, and I was like, "A flat kit? Like, what are we doing?" Like, I knew nothing.
Oh,
Um,
man.
but let me tell you, we rode a new trail system actually in Western North Carolina. I can't recall the name off the top of my head, but it was right near Fontana Lake, for those of you
Mhm.
that know North Carolina area. It wasn't Pisgah, but it was nearby.
Yeah.
I had a blast. I
That's
mean,
awesome.
yeah, just trying to chase her, and I knew nothing. I was whooping and laughing and hollering, and I had a grin ear to ear, and it was the most fun I've had in a really long time, especially with, something that was an activity.
Mhm.
Because I've always been fit or like at least loved fitness, let's put it that way. But biking brought something out of me, and I wanna say, like, within a couple of weeks, got back to Greensboro, went to a local bike shop, bought a Gary Fisher Big Sur, like, charged me on my
Nice.
credit card. It was like $1,000, I think, $1,200, something like that, and it was a hardtail, and I had that continued to have that bike for quite a few years, and every time I got on the bike, I found some guy buddies, we would shred
Yeah.
together after class or what have
Yeah.
you, and just chasing them was such a joy. So, I've been riding for over 22 years, but there was a big hiatus there with, just various people that maybe I was in relationship with or things like that. It just never was a priority for me, unfortunately, but
Yeah.
a few years ago, fortunately with my wife, there's definitely a lot of encouragement to pursue
That's
the things
awesome.
that bring me joy. So she just is like, "Do you want to do this clinic? Go ahead and do it." So back in 2015, I got back on the bike, and I haven't looked back since.
That's
It's
so
been
amazing.
Yeah, it's been the best thing in my life. It really has
I
been.
mean, the grin from ear to ear has been on your face the entire time. So I know how much mountain biking in
Yeah.
general means to you. Like
Yeah.
that's really amazing. And to start off with a monk, how did you like the hardtail?
I loved my Gary Fisher hardtail. I actually kept it until 2020 when I, donated it to a local, like, kids league
Oh,
that where they teach
yeah.
kids how to wrench. It's
Mhm.
called Lucky's Bikes here in Denver, great shop, but I love hardtail, but I'm also a little bit more of a cross country rider. Like I love accumulating miles. I love flow. I love fast. I love speed.
Yeah.
Um, I don't necessarily love downhill. I can see the appeal. I think that
Yeah.
it's very appealing, but I don't like straight downhill. I do like to have the climbs. So I'm a little bit more
Yeah.
of like I'd say cross country slash enduro rider is
Yeah.
what I usually like.
Yeah.
But I
That's
like the
amazing.
hardtail. Hardtails are fast.
Yeah, I started on a hardtail, and then the second I sat on a full suspension, like a year and a half later, I never looked back. I'm like, "There's no
Yeah.
way. There's no
Yeah.
way." There are
No.
people in Sedona that ride a hardtail. That to me is insane.
That is
That's next level.
impressive, to
Yeah.
say the least. Just given the terrain that is in Sedona, like that definitely, I mean, kudos to them.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think Molly did ride a hardtail in Sedona for a long time. Molly Joyce, she's insane. She's out of this
Wow.
world. Okay, so when did you get into coaching? Like, how did you start, like, mountain bike coaching?
With mountain biking coaching, I started so what happened was I attended a Vida MTB series clinic back
Mhm.
in 2015. So it was a year
Okay.
after I moved to Colorado and immediately was hooked with the community. I had a great coach, Liz Sampe. Uh, she was fantastic. So she and Mia were my coaches that day, a different
Mhm.
Mia, not you.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
'cause I'm not a mountain bike coach.
yeah, not you, not you. And I fell in love with the sport all over again. And that I was learning on my hardtail at that point. So I was still on the Gary Fisher
Damn.
hardtail, and that also still needed to be serviced, just FYI. Like it definitely needed some suspension work now that I know. Like the fork, it needed to be looked at. But whatever, my smile made up for it. And
You had a good time, right? That's
yeah,
all that matters.
I had a ripping good time,
Yeah.
and, a little bit worried about my braking capability on that bike since it was like the old school caliper brakes, but it's fine,
Oh,
it's fine.
no.
I made it, one piece, we were good. But I attended that clinic, and that's when I realized the magic behind the clinic scene and just what happens, especially when it's all female, all women's clinic. You
Yeah.
have that camaraderie that can't really be replicated elsewhere,
Mhm.
and there was this sense of connection with people I didn't even really know. Like I met them that day, and it was a
Right.
day-long clinic, and the next day was the Betty Bike Bash, which is a really large, I think it's actually the largest women's mountain bike race in the States. Went there, had even more fun, even though I was like, "Oh my gosh, I was definitely out of shape, was not ready for this." But since that day, I immediately felt connected with Vida MTB series and thought, "Well, how can I get more involved with them?"
Yeah.
So, I chased being an ambassador or community leader with them, did that for a couple of years, but while you're also an ambassador, if you show that you have interest in coaching, then they'll put you in as an assistant coach. So that's where I
Nice.
started. I was an assistant coach for probably, gosh, close to 3 years actually, and then I thought, I really just need to go ahead and get my coaching certification because 'cause I'm already coaching in the gym
Yeah.
outside
Yeah.
of this and have been coaching in the gym outside of this part-time and at the very least for, oh my gosh, close to 15 years probably.
Mhm.
And I thought it would be really great and a great way for me to share the stoke with other people,
Yeah.
much like my ex did, in college.
Yeah.
So then that's when I went, got my PMBIA last year in Fruita and
Mhm.
been doing that. So I've been lead coaching for the past year and a half or so.
That's so
Yeah.
amazing. That's so good. What do you find most rewarding from coaching people?
Seeing them enhance their confidence on the
Yeah.
bike from the beginning. Like, they're hesitant, they're maybe a little shy, and
Mhm.
then, they don't wanna necessarily commit to certain things on the bike, but then when they realize what they're capable of doing,
Yeah.
it's like magic. Yeah, and you can
Yeah.
I it's palpable, like, you can see the look on their faces and with their energy when they do have those aha moments and they
Yeah.
feel like, "Oh, I am capable of doing this." And
Yeah.
what's really cool is that confidence and capability sense of capability translates and transfers over into their day-to-day life,
Yeah.
in the office, in family life, in their relationships, in everything, and I think that is so incredibly rewarding.
That's so true. I mean, everything you just said, I concur with everything you just said. But also how the confidence you get from that coaching spills into other parts of you because you feel taller. You like, at least for
Yeah,
me, I'm speaking for myself.
yeah.
I told the other day I recorded with Coach Tina, and
Mhm.
I told her, like, my lesson that I had with Molly, I thought I knew what I was doing, right? And
Mhm.
then you get there and you're taught things that you didn't even think of.
Mhm.
And I got on the bike on that ride and it was just like, oh my God, I feel confident. Like by the little things that she taught me, basic physics on the bike that she taught me. And it was, and I recommend anyone, regardless of skill level, to go at least get one lesson with a mountain bike coach, because
Mhm.
you don't know if you are doing things correctly or you could improve. I think there's always room for improvement, regardless of what you do.
100%.
And at times you have really bad habits, right? So I'm sure you've encountered some people that
Mhm.
have bad habits, or whether they're new riders,
Mhm.
or, like in my case, I was using my two fingers to brake and you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I had others, but that was the main one that I was
Yeah.
told that
Yeah.
I had. So, how do you approach that? Like when you find someone who's got some bad habits, like how do you approach that as a coach on the bike?
Empathy. Yeah, empathy first of all, because
Yeah.
I can certainly relate to that because I learned, over 20 years ago, close to 22 years ago, and it's one of those situations where I was notorious for hanging behind my seat,
Yes.
getting all stretched out, and extending my elbows if I'm going downhill.
Yep. Stick
And
your butt out. It was always the
exactly,
thing, like, yeah.
exactly. And so then I'd lose my front end control,
Mhm.
and that's not what you wanna do. You always wanna maintain control as best as you can.
Yeah.
So it's empathy because I've been there. And for me, it's a matter of pausing and never saying, "Oh, you're doing that wrong." Never saying, "Oh, that's bad. Bad, 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 bad
Yeah.
habit. We need to get rid of
Yeah.
that." No, you don't wanna make anyone feel like crap in the process of coaching. Like, coaching should
Yeah.
be a very supportive environment. So,
Absolutely.
I press pause, and I first of all ask them, "How'd that feel?" Have them reflect, how'd that feel, maybe descending with arms extended. And sometimes they do. They actually take a moment and they recognize, like, I didn't feel like I could commit. I didn't feel very like I was in control, or I don't know.
Mhm.
It felt off. I'm like,
Yeah.
great. Let's make some adjustments. How about you try this? Because you did a great job doing this, but now let's maybe change this one thing and then continue doing this. So I try to do that like positive sandwich thing, where it's like give them a high five first
Yeah.
and then beat them down. No, I'm just kidding. Don't beat them down, but like give them something they can improve on, and then give them another thing to like focus on that's positive that they were doing
Yeah.
already.
I
Because
mean, that's
it takes
amazing.
a while. Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing because that's what teaching is about too. You have to give positive reinforcement. Otherwise, people aren't going to want to learn. And they're like, why am I paying you to berate me again? No,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
but I think you in general, you're such an amazing person. You have such great energy and your
Oh,
optimism and candor. Like I really love that about you.
candor.
Uh,
That's a good word.
it is because like you
Yeah.
would call me out on stuff when I needed it, but you was
With
very polite,
like
with
very
very
yes.
encouraging,
It's like an encouraging push, like
Yeah.
and especially now I just finished, my master health coaching certification program. It's my second time going through it. Thank
Yay.
you. Now I get to go through honestly, I've only gotten through the first half, but the first half is the behavioral piece of coaching.
Okay. Yeah.
So now I've been armed with all of these questions that are really reflective questions for clients to kind of reflect on themselves a little bit
Mhm.
more. Instead of me doing it, I want them to be able to do it.
Sorry.
And
Sorry for that noise, everyone. I had a little light mishap during this time here, and it's all fixed now. Back to the podcast.
that's okay. You had a little light disaster here.
Technical difficulties here, people. It makes for a good blooper reel, I guess.
It happens. It happens.
I don't
Um,
know.
but
Sorry.
yeah,
Go
just
ahead.
trying to get them to reflect on themselves a little bit more and asking deep questions. Like I've already had a couple clients who are like, "Ooh, Jen, that was a good question." And I'm
Ooh,
gonna need
really?
you to think about that. And take your time. Take your time. Think about it. Come back to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. That's so good. Congratulations. I
Mhm.
know going to school for anything is such a chore,
Yeah.
and then going to school as an adult is like an even worse chore.
Yeah.
You
I
know about my
definitely love it,
struggles with that.
but it's been health coaching kind of has you reflect on yourself to a level in which I've never really reflected on myself. I mean, I do. I reflect on myself quite often, but it's you reflect on yourself in the process of reflecting on how you interact with your clients, and it's really magical. I absolutely love it. So,
It is, and that's one of the things I love about you because not everyone
thanks.
can have that self-reflection to want to not only better their clients, but themselves and how they approach that situation.
Yeah, it's cool.
So speaking of that, you work with various different types of athletes, right? You don't just work with mountain bikers.
No, I will say I work with mostly mountain bikers and gravel cyclists.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those folks are, two sport athletes. So a lot of them run as well, do some sort of mountaineering. Maybe they also do climbing, like outdoor or
Mm-hmm.
indoor climbing,
Mm-hmm.
bouldering, things like that.
Yep.
But I will say, gosh, probably over 95% of the individuals I work with mountain bike or do some sort of gravel cycling, which is
Yeah.
great because those are the two things that I love and bring me joy. So
What at that follow-up question? So what do you enjoy about working? Like, what is it about mountain bikers that you enjoy working with? Like, what is it about us?
it's
Amazing folk.
I mean, yeah, we're incredible folks, right? It's relatable. We
Mhm.
have a shared passion, which is great. It immediately gives us the sense of connection and relatability. And it helps them know that I understand more on how to fuel effectively for mountain bikers and for gravel cyclists. And usually these types of individuals, what I find often happens is they go out for these bike rides
Mhm.
with friends or significant others or things like that. Or maybe they enter their first race and they just feel like they have more to give, but
Mhm.
they can't necessarily tap it. And they know that something might be a little off, like with nutrition or training or just
Yep.
something's a little off because they just feel beaten up.
Mhm.
And they usually reach out to me to help with those things that they want to work on, whether it's nutrition or training or strength training or
Yeah.
mobility or also even just the mindset piece behind cycling, but then also, you know, those other health habits like sleep and hydration
Yeah.
and, lowering their cholesterol. Like maybe they've gone recently to get their blood tests, their CBC
Yeah.
or what have you with their healthcare practitioner, and it came back with elevated cholesterol levels or things like that.
Mhm.
And a health coach is an ideal person to come to work with them and their doctor at the same time, should that be what they need. So,
Yeah.
you know, kind of circling back, like it's a form of it's a way for me to relate to them,
Mhm.
and we have this shared passion, and I can help them more
Yeah.
because of that shared passion. So hopefully that answers the question effectively.
100%.
Yeah, but it I don't know. I love the community. I love the mountain biking community. There is something absolutely amazing about these folks, and I think
Yeah.
it's because we have a shared passion of going fast on bikes and being out in nature and just having fun and like
Yeah.
letting our guard down with mountain biking because
Yep.
you expose yourself. You're vulnerable. You're kind of flying down a mountain and you're trying to dodge dodge shit. So,
Yeah.
so it's
To
one of
put
those.
it mildly, but yeah.
Yeah, 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 and sometimes effectively, sometimes not effectively, but, still, it's that fun adrenaline-seeking, adventurous soul that I
Yeah.
I relate to and I love working with, so
Yeah. The community in general is so good. Like, and I've only really found the community in the last couple of years, like a lot of people during COVID, right? So it's
yeah,
been so good, and I cannot wait for Rome,
yes.
Sedona
Oh,
you really need to come if you can. Like
I'm
I already
trying.
told you, you
Yeah,
you can stay with us.
well,
I just
take on your
cannot wait
soapbox.
because sorry. Bring the dog, bring the missus, bring everyone. We'll have like a big party. But it's just the supportive environment that we have as women, and I think it's also because we've experienced not being included in something that is so much fun to us, or we feel
Mhm,
like we're going to be judged or we're not going to be good enough. Like that's like the story of our lives, right?
yeah,
And I don't find that riding with women. I've always been really intimidated to ride with women
mhm,
regardless, because I always think, well, I'm a horrible climber. Like I'm really
mhm.
slow. The joke is if you're not hiking with me on a ride, you're not riding like it's not a mountain bike ride, you know?
Oh, yeah.
But I bomb down hills. So I'm working on getting my climbing up. I'm getting there.
It happens.
But I did like a group ride with a local club here, Goals Gone Riding in It wasn't a group ride. It was in we went to Big Bear. They have their annual 3-day Big Bear, like it's amazing. And I was only able to go for 1 day at Sky Park here in Southern California. And it's a park, but it doesn't have lifts. So you kind of got to climb a little bit. The climb really isn't bad. It really isn't bad.
Earn your turns.
But yeah. I absolutely loved it because there were women of all skill level. It did not matter. Like my self-consciousness of being like, well, I'm going to suck. I'm going to take like, half an hour to get up there.
Yeah.
It wasn't about that. It was about really encouraging each other. It was the first time I've experienced that with a large group of women.
Mhm.
And I was like, what am I scared of? Like, this is amazing. We need to bring this to the forefront to everyone. There was a girl, I forget her name. She was so amazing. It was her first mountain bike ride ever. And she
No
was
way.
so enthusiastic. Like
Love it.
she'd been on the bike 3 times. This was her first ride at a park. She had a hardtail. She was ready to go. She had her gear. And I was like, dude, this is amazing. Are you having a good time? She's like,
Mhm.
I'm having a great time. I'm going slow. And I'm like, who cares if you're going slow? You're having a
Yeah.
good time.
We're
Like,
going.
I
Yeah.
was so inspired by people like that. That is just the community is just amazing. So anyway, circling back, Rome's going to be amazing. I cannot wait to connect
Yes.
with people like you that I've met virtually. We're going to have Ash on the podcast too in the next few
Are
weeks. So that's going
you?
to be great.
Okay. Okay. So Ash and Andy have literally created one of the best communities I've found in that type of like non-clinic setting, of course.
Right.
And make sure you get hugs from them because they're amazing huggers. Andy's Andy's tiny, like she's small like I am, but
Yeah.
she's a bear hugger just like I am. So yeah,
Oh,
it was great. So yeah, melt into them with their hugs because their motto is like hugs, not handshakes.
yeah.
And it's a very supportive community. And Girls Gone Riding, that team is, if I'm not mistaken, I think that's the largest women's mountain biking team in the nation.
Yeah, so we're also going to have Wendy, who's the founder, on the podcast
Perfect.
in a couple of months. She's
Ah,
amazing too. She does some really great things here in the community in Southern California. It
that's
has
awesome.
chapters going from, I think, Central California all the way down to Southern, like San Diego
Yeah,
area, Inland Empire. Like it's a big group
nice,
of us. And it
nice.
was great. Yeah. So maybe next summer, if we
Yeah,
don't do the Sturdy Dirty race, you
yeah.
can come to our Big Bear event here in Southern California for 3 days.
We'll figure something out. But
We'll
I'm
figure it
gonna Rome Fest. Like after my experience with Rome Fest Fruita, you're gonna love it in Sedona. And that's kind of their, I think, their main event anyways.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll reach out to them and see if they want me to volunteer again because I'm hooked. I'm like, okay, how can I get to every single one? And even my wife's like, yeah, you need to go to those because you are incredibly happy and you're back to like your normal self now that you've attended
Oh,
Rome Fest Fruita. And I was like, okay, good. I'm glad you sense that because I sense that because there's something again very palpable about the community and
yeah.
we're all
Yeah.
there to support one another. We're all giving each other high fives. There's no competition. And I'm here for it. I am
Yeah.
so here for something like that. So
That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
That's amazing. Well, I made a decision to go to Fruita next year. So at
Nice.
least next year I want to go to Colorado. We'll be in Colorado. The
Nice.
wife doesn't, she's down. She's a big cross country mountain biker.
Yeah,
As
yeah.
long as it's not like a full on downhill park, which
It's
I
not.
think she's still game for. But
Yeah.
I saw videos and it looks like it's just so much fun. And we know so many
It's so
people in
much fun.
Colorado
Yeah.
that we're
No,
going to
do
go
it.
riding with everyone. We're going to get like a
Yeah.
big group of people too.
Do it. Yeah, yeah. And we'll do some group rides. We can do some DIY group rides. And it's very cross country friendly. Very, very
Yeah.
much so. So yeah.
Well, she'll like that. I don't know if
Yeah.
I will, but I'm just kidding.
But there's other things like she could maybe even do a different ride than you can. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just fun. You're gonna love it. But I'm so excited. Oh,
Yeah, it's gonna be so great.
yeah.
Okay, so we are just in love with the community. So going back, I wanted to
We
ask
are.
you, you offer some amazing coaching programs. I'm a
Thank you.
testament to that. So tell us a little bit about Shredstrong first. And you have a opening for that coming up next week, right?
I
On the 10th
do.
of
I
October?
do. Yeah. So we start the next phase. I start an annual phase, which is kind of the main time to join. Of course, folks can join whenever they want to, but I do make it progressive on purpose because I do
Mhm.
want them to progress, safely and constructively
Yeah.
and overload their bodies effectively throughout the season because fall and winter we really want to enhance our strength and things like that.
Mhm.
And then come springtime, yeah, that's when we're getting into a little bit more power and a little bit more dynamic movements that are explosive. that can help them as they approach the usual mountain biking season
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
spring and summer, feeling ready to just crush it and slay it on the bike. But Shred Strong is it's the training that I follow. So it's a strength and conditioning program, and it depends, like folks can decide whether they want to do a barbell or not. So they can choose,
Mhm.
based on the equipment that they have access to. And you can do it at home. I'd say more than half of the folks actually do all of their programs at home. Exactly. Because really you just need a set of bands, and I give links to everything, like a couple sets
Yep.
of bands, some dumbbells is really ideal, and that's pretty much it. You can use like an ottoman, your sofa, things like that for other things
Yep.
that are in the program, and things are very flexible. And I do give in the videos, I do like write out some instructions on things that they can substitute out for equipment.
Mhm.
But basically, it's a year-long program, and I go through these phases like I talked about, depending on the season, to prep
Right.
them for the season, mainly spring and summer.
Yep.
And you get 3 days a week of strength training.
Mhm.
And now one of those days is optional based on time, because even though we all have 24 hours, we don't all have the same 24 hours. Like
That's right.
some folks have kids, some folks, might have to they don't have a car. So maybe it takes them longer to even go to the grocery store or meal prep or just whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to be sensitive with that, and allow the folks that are in the program to at least do those 2 strength training days a week, because 2
Yep.
is definitely enough to
Yeah.
maintain strength and increase strength. And then that 3rd day is pretty optional. And then there's an interval session that they can do either on the bike, like out in a gravel road, especially if you're living, somewhere like Arizona, California, things like that that are
Yep.
a little bit more friendly, less snow. They can either do it on a gravel road or out on the trail, or they could do it on an indoor trainer. Like I have an indoor trainer right next to me, little Wahoo kicker. So I'll do my interval sessions on that. And that, of course, helps them and complements whatever they're doing, especially if they are a winter sport athlete and they do ski and snowboard. I
Yeah.
want to be sensitive to that, because I think all too often coaches sometimes forget to have the element of fun
Mhm.
with their clients. And, we can't ask our clients to only bike and only train in the gym and just wear themselves out both mentally and physically doing the same thing over and over again. So I
Right.
give them that option of like, hey, you like cross country skiing, or you like alpine skiing, or you love snowboarding. Great. Like crush it. And I literally include it in the instructions in the
Yep.
app, because everything's accessible in the app. And I say, hey, at least once a day or once a week rather, have soul miles, get some soul miles, whether that's on your snowboard skis or on your bike, or a gravel
Yeah.
bike or whatever. But I try not to include too much in the program, because then people feel overwhelmed. But on their calendar, they have those 3 strength programs and the intervals at a minimum. Then
Mhm.
they can add in some of these core workouts that I'm gonna start to include in the next phase
Ooh.
starting in October. Yeah, I'm doing like a couple of quick core workouts. They're only like 5 to I'd say 5 to 12 minutes long. So that way they can do it before
Still.
or after bike rides. Yeah, it's enough, because the core is so crucial to cycling, especially mountain
100%.
biking. What was that?
I said 100%.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
I mean, it just makes you feel so much more stable on and off the bike. And it helps you carry in groceries, all in one trip.
I
But
saw you did a post about that
yeah.
one time. It was so funny.
It's important. You have to have that stability, right? But yeah, we're doing a couple of core workouts as well. And then there's mobility too that they can grab from the programming and plug it in the calendar whenever they want to. And that's the magic of this, is I want them to be giving themselves some love, every week, and showing
Yeah.
up for themselves in those 30-minute, 60-minute workouts, however long they want to do this for. And I encourage them to do the mobility as much as they can. It's only like 5 to 10 minutes long to do the mobility session. So the things that I program aren't things that are going to take 2 hours in the gym, or even, necessarily over an hour, honestly. The
Yeah.
point is I want it to be succinct, and I want it to be able to fit their schedule and keep things fresh and new. And I do
Yeah.
introduce movements that I mean, hell, sometimes the movements I haven't done in a few years. And I have a lot of clients who are like, I've been working out for like 20 years and I've never seen this movement before. And that makes me happy, because I want it to be accessible still. I want it to be, not out of this world, like doing
Yep.
backflips and stuff. But I also want it to be, interesting and
Yeah.
and variable, because that's what keeps folks interested.
Yeah.
So
One of the things I really liked about it too was that you can change the days
Yes.
specifically that you want to do stuff. So you
Oh, yeah.
load everything up to the website, sorry, to the app, and then there were
Mhm.
days where I was even like, not feeling it,
Oh,
gonna skip it
yeah.
to a different day. That I love the flexibility
Yeah. No,
that
I
you
do
have.
that. Yeah. I'm like, I'm not doing my strength workout on a Tuesday this week. I'm riding with some friends. So let me just move it over. And it's nice because you literally just tap and drop it. Like it's so easy. And I've tried
Yeah.
other apps and things like that over the years and even recently, just to make sure I'm using the same app that I want to use. And
Mhm.
this app still is good. And what's cool too is I'm all about community. So every 6 to 8 weeks, we get together and we do a Zoom call with the whole Shred Strong community,
Yep.
whoever can show up. I record it, of course, if no one's able to show up, but we talk about something. We talk about a topic. Sometimes it's been nutrition, race mindset, prepping for racing, you know, gosh, anything. It's been a Q&A
Yeah.
session, whatever it is. Like we're going to have our first one the week after we start. So we start on the 10th.
Nice.
We're going to have one shortly thereafter, just as a Q&A, get to know one another, and then just kind of kick off the season a little bit more. And I am encouraging folks to really focus on a healthy habit every
Mhm.
month too, because I feel like that's what will allow people to again focus on themselves. Because I want
Yeah.
folks to be able to focus on themselves. So
Yeah.
the first month we're just gonna focus on carving out time for yourself. That's going to be the big habit that we're going to focus on first, because that's a really good you know, starting habit for, I'd say 100% of people
Yeah.
is just figuring out how to make time for themselves
Yeah.
despite their schedules and just how busy they might be.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love it. And it's nice because you get demo videos in there on how to do things. Plus, I'm
Yeah.
only a message away. Should anyone have any questions, they can always reach out to me at any point. And the kicker is I give video analysis. So if someone doesn't feel really good with a certain movement, I'm like, hey, record yourself for no more than a minute and then message it to me in the app
Yeah.
and I'll give you some feedback.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, I do not know of any other program that is mountain biking or gravel specific that does all of this and is so high touch. Like I really feel like I'm getting to know, especially a core group of folks who are in the program. Um, Yeah, and it's really neat, and then I get to meet them at Roam Fest, for example, for the first time and hug it out with them, and
Yeah.
yeah, and of course, they always say, "You're shorter than I thought you were." But no, it's this community. Again, I'm all about building that community.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
important to me.
Well, the Shred Strong for me really felt like a one-on-one, even though like you're starting a community with people together, right?
Wow,
Regardless of what it was. To me, I felt like it was very personalized,
nice.
regardless. I really like that about you. And the other thing you touched on was habit.
Yes,
Like to this day, I have you in my head for the nutrition coaching that you gave me about building habits every single week. So for
wow.
those of you listening and or watching, Jen also does some amazing nutrition coaching which you
Thanks.
can talk about if you'd like. Go ahead, talk about
Yeah.
that a little bit, then we'll move on to mountain bike coaching.
No, of course, of course. And I'll give you the link to the Shred Strong that way
Yeah,
you can share it.
I'll include
Yeah.
everything in
Yeah, I'll
there.
share it in the show notes. That way people can kinda learn more about it. But I mean, it's literally $49 or less a month, which again, for as high touch as it is, I've personally never seen it because I've seen programs who are similar, that aren't necessarily mountain biking focused, and, they're coaching colleagues of mine and friends of mine, and they're like $79 a month. So again, I'm trying to make it accessible for more people.
Yeah.
And plus, I give back to the trail system and things like that with donations. But my nutrition and health coaching is, weekly check-ins at first for at least the first 12 weeks because I'm all about building those habits and
Yep.
just figuring out where to start. So you have an intake questionnaire that you complete, gives me a nice snapshot idea of what the hell your life looks like right now and what on earth are you eating right now and how are you sleeping and how are you hydrating and what's your stress level? How do you spend your day? Like, what do you do for a living? Because
Yeah.
that's incredibly important. Um, and then based on all of those responses, I'll ask some follow-up questions, but then I'll figure out, I'll basically triage like what we should work on first in terms of habits. And again, 1 to 2 weeks at a time, we're doing a small habit, just one thing. And I give them, of course, a plan based on, how much they should try to aim to eat and
Mhm.
portion sizes and things like that. And it all depends on if they want to be a little bit more advanced and count macronutrients, which is weighing and measuring their food, or if they
Yeah.
want to just do some hand-eye portioning. And I've had clients see success with both. So it all
Mhm.
depends on their bandwidth And of course, I talk with them about what process they should go through during our chemistry call, when we're trying to
Yeah.
figure out if they even want to work with me. So yeah, depending on what they're capable of doing and what their bandwidth is, we go forward with that. And again, it's all delivered in an app. And, there's lessons every day that take anywhere between 10 seconds to read. They're just a reminder on up to maybe about 5 minutes to read that are a little bit more thorough. But they learn, like, you basically get a nice crash course on all things nutrition and health coaching in, I'd say, I mean, I say a minimum of 12 weeks, but ideally, like, if they could work a minimum of 6 months with me, that would be great. And some folks are like, no, I'm doing this for a year because I want to go through all the weddings and all the holidays and all the
Yeah.
family vacations. And I want to experience that. And I want to know how to navigate that effectively because my approach is I want it to be sustainable. Like, I don't
Yes.
want this to be rigid and all of that other BS that I see out on social media. I want it to be sustainable, and I want you to fire me after you're done. That's the business model that I have, is I want you to feel comfortable. Maybe you might need to brush up, like, maybe in a couple of years, because maybe you had a kid and you're just trying to figure out, like, what does
Yep.
this look like postpartum, or maybe you're going through menopause or something like that.
Yeah.
So sure, I can understand like a little brush up later on, but I want people to feel confident to fly out of the nest on their own. And because A, that's empowering for them, and B, it's sustainable. And this is like a lifelong endeavor for them to just
Yep.
continue doing.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yep.
But that's
Yeah.
the health coaching. And what's cool too is after they're done with the weekly check-ins, then they can choose to go down to bi-weekly or once a month. And they're trying to loosen the reins with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because again, empowerment.
Yeah, absolutely. I told you that for me, I think I did 3 months with you and I stopped because my dog was diagnosed with cancer and we didn't know what kind of
Yeah.
treatment we were gonna have to do for her. But she's actually doing really, really well. And we decided not to put her through chemo. Was not the thing. She's still sassy as ever, dude. She runs every morning. She eats all the things. She like Siberian Huskies, man, they're just the best dogs. I
There's
mean, your
no.
dog's pretty awesome too. But so anyway, I did the first 3 months, but I did tell you how, like, after I find out what's going on with my wrist,
Yeah.
to see getting back into some type of a routine because I do want to do a race next year and just
Mhm.
it's my year. 2023 is going to be my year. Let's get it done.
Yes. I'm here for it. I'm here for that energy.
No more school. I have a
Ah,
pretty good
yeah.
job and I'm doing this, which I absolutely love. So I have a good thing going, and hopefully we'll have Indy for the next few more years. We'll have
Yeah.
the little doggo for a few more years. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I loved working with you. Absolutely loved working with you. So then in terms of actual like mountain bike coaching,
Mhm.
how can folks get it? How can folks get in touch with you to get a session from you? Be like, hey Jen,
Yeah.
here, you have 2 hours. Let's go riding. Teach me some things.
Yeah, no, for sure. Of course, you can catch me in a clinic with Vida MTB series right now. I do all my private coaching through Vida MTB series
Okay.
as well,
Mhm.
just because, it's easier with the insurance structure and things like that.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
my focus is always on my health coaching and strength training. And then I do the mountain biking coaching, as kind of an add-on just because I love
yeah,
it. And I love having interactions, because all of
yeah.
my coaching is pretty much remote and online. So I
Mhm.
need that in-person interaction or else I go
Yep.
a little cuckoo.
I'm the
Um,
same. We're extroverts. We need
yeah,
like that
yeah,
connection.
yeah, and I think that's why I felt so good after Roam Fest is because I had that, like, amazing group of people that I was working with and interacting with and hugging, and that filled my soul.
Yeah.
So I do the mountain biking coaching as needed. Like, for example, next Friday, I'm going to be doing a solo session. So yeah, they can reach out to Vida MTB series. I can't remember the tab that it's under, if it's community or clinics or things like that, but they'll see the link for, doing one-on-one sessions. And you can also do small group sessions as well.
And
But
I'll post all that
yeah,
information too. I'll have people like direct link to Vida MTB series, which is awesome in general, and then you as the coach. And we also do have you up on our website as well as a coach. So I'm gonna
nice.
link all of that information to that as well.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you.
And lastly, the last thing I wanted to ask you about was your amazing podcast. So
Thanks.
for those of you who don't know, Jen has a podcast called Making Shift Happen, and I listen to it every week.
Oh, thanks.
I think I messaged you a couple days ago. I listened to your last podcast, and every single time you say something so on point. that it's like you're speaking to me. You
Aw,
know, like I
love
think
it.
I injured my wrist. I
Mm.
started working out again. I did more, I bit off more than I could chew because I'm like, oh, I'm feeling good. I might actually start like lifting a barbell above my head this time. And like, whatever. So I did that. And listening to your
Happens.
podcast, it was like fate. Where I think the last one yours was what to do if you haven't worked out in a while, and you give like 5 key points on how to get back into working out, to a routine,
Yeah,
into a habit, right?
yeah.
And I was listening to it and I was like, oh my God, she's in my head. It's like
I love
but
it.
it's so good. If people like, I
Appreciate that.
highly recommend her podcast. Jen talks about a variety of different topics, everything for how to be consistent, how to show up, how to do longer bike rides, like everything. She's amazing.
Mhm. Thank
And I
you.
know you're available for people to reach out to if they have questions in
Oh, yeah.
general, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. DM me through Instagram. That's probably the best bet. If you ever have any questions or if you have podcast topic ideas, because this is
Mm,
definitely still a work in progress. And there are things that I would like to change about my podcast format going forward. Like the next Roam Fest that I attend, for example, I would love to have some, at the festival sound bites
yeah.
and things like that to kind of share a story. Like I want to be a little bit of a storyteller, maybe, once every other month or something like that, and have a podcast that just has a little bit of a different format. But
Yeah.
I try to keep the podcast episodes pretty short and succinct. I'd say 30 minutes or less generally, unless I'm doing an interview. But yeah, definitely reach out to me via Instagram. They can also email me if they want, jen@shifthumanperformance.com.
Yep.
If they ever have any questions about anything. I love, again, helping the community. This is
Yeah.
what I'm here for.
Yeah. That's what we're all here for. Like, I just want to bring all the amazing things to the community for women. Like, there's so many resources out there. It's the whole goal of what I'm trying to do here.
Hell yeah.
It's
And
like,
I love that about you. And I love that about the Women's MTB network that you created because you're really truly invested in the community and you have the community in your mind first.
yep.
And it shows. And I can't wait to see where this goes,
Thank
going forward and just seeing how it grows and things like that. And I'll have you on my podcast, of course.
you.
Um, but yeah, it's just one of those situations where you want to support other folks in this community. And
Yeah.
that's what it's all about, is
Yeah.
just being supportive. There's enough there's no competition. Just like on the trail, there's no competition. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, I'm
Yeah.
having a coaches series with the podcast, and I'm
Yeah.
having quite a few different coaches on because there's so many of you across the entire country, and
Mhm.
people are very different. Some people may connect with others, you know what I mean? So it's really isn't a competition. It's
No.
like, here's your options. Like, look at all the amazing resources you have in
Mhm.
front of you. And I love people to contribute because, like I keep saying, it's not about me. It's about our community.
Mhm.
We're all different. Everyone's perspective is important and different.
Yeah.
So, like, yes, let's get you on a podcast. Like,
Yeah.
let's get you
Yeah,
on
yeah.
either I keep harping about that. I can go on for days. But anyway, thank you, Jen, so much for being on the podcast and taking your time today to talk to me. I loved being able to connect with you and see your face. And I hope you have a great time at the Betty Bike Bash this weekend. That should be
Thanks.
amazing.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Clinic first, which is one of my favorite clinics because, of course, I have a soft spot in my heart for it because that's the clinic I went to for Vida, and that was
Yeah.
my first exposure to Vida MTB series. But the Betty Bike Bash is a blast. But yeah, hopefully we'll get you out here at some point.
Oh, I need to go to Colorado. So many places I want to go to in the summertime.
You're not gonna
Oh my
leave.
God. Colorado for sure. We are definitely going to be in Colorado in the summertime. That's for
Yes.
sure.
Well, let
That's a
me know.
guarantee. Oh, I will.
All right. Well, thanks
Have a
again for
great
having me.
rest. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll chat with you soon. Hopefully, people will start reaching out to you to get these amazing services that you can offer them.
Yeah. Thanks, Mia.
Have a good one, Jen.
Bye.
Bye.